Okay, this is Steve with Luthierism. Today I'm going to talk about a guitar polarity tool and just try to make it easy so we can really kind of get to the bottom of this and just kind of have a quick, easy tool so you can determine the magnetic polarity of any pickup and kind of give you an idea of how the magnetic field lines actually work in a guitar. So um, this first slide here, this is kind of a funny thing, but it kind of all started with when you think about the Earth's magnetic field. This is a visual representation of that. So when you think about the Earth's magnetic field, um, actually, the magnetic south is the North Pole, the geographic North Pole of the Earth, and the magnetic north is the geographic South Pole. You can check me on this anywhere you want. I'm sure it's fine. Uh, so um, so when you look at the field lines emanate from the magnetic north. They leave the magnetic north, which is actually the geographic south on this diagram, and the field lines then travel all the way up to the magnetic South Pole, which is actually the geographic North Pole. And so that's why when you have a compass needle, it points north, because if you look at the compass needle on the right here, it does the same thing as the Earth. So the magnetic field lines go from south to north inside the compass needle, but then they emanate from the north of the compass needle, and then they travel around and go all the way to the south. But why the needle actually points north, even though it's pointing to the magnetic south, the magnetic north of the needle is actually pointing to the magnetic south of the Earth, is because the needle is so small in comparison to the Earth. So the needle is only feeling the external magnetic field of the Earth, and the internal of the compass is feeling the external of the Earth. So the external of the compass needle is so minuscule, so small, that it doesn't really have any effect. You can almost kind of ignore it. So that's kind of how they line up. Now, if you took that compass needle and you went all the way up to the geographic north of the Earth, which is the magnetic south, the North Pole, the needle would point directly uh, down, uh, because um, the flux lines are entering the Earth at the North Pole, and the flux lines in the see that little diagram I have at the top, the polarity tester. I'm going to get to that on the next slide. But the black is the north, and that's the flux lines inside the neodymium magnet that's in the polarity tester, and they're pointing in the same direction. So that's why when they say, that's kind of confusing too, when they say that opposites attract. Well, opposites do attract, but so the polarity tester, the north pole of the polarity tester, which is the black, is pointing, or it's being um, attracted to the magnetic south of the Earth here, because the flux lines are parallel. So yeah, opposites attract, but I think it's easier to think about the flow of the flux lines. So if I took that polarity tester and I put it at the geographic south pole of the magnetic north, it would point straight up, because you're matching the flux lines. So the flux lines through the polarity tester would align with the flux lines leaving the magnetic north, or the geographic north of the Earth. So it's a little confusing, and I think that's why, I think somewhere I read too that scientists actually have it reversed, having the magnetic north, the South Pole, and the magnetic south, the North Pole, because they really didn't understand the interplay between the compass needle and the magnetic field. But you can see that the magnetic field through the Earth is the opposite of the magnetic field external to the Earth. So, um, so the polarity tester. Let's go to the next page. So the polarity tester is going to align itself with the direction of the flux. Um, so when you look at a screw terminal on a humbucker, or a slug terminal on a humbucker. Or if you, in this case, we're looking at single coils. So when you have a single coil, uh, you have you have the flux leaving the top of the coil, which would be north polarity. You can see that in the diagram here. And when you have a south polarity pole, the flux is entering the top of the slug. So you can see the flux is entering the top, going through, and then leaving the bottom. So that would be the south pole pickup. And if the flux is leaving the the slug or the screw, that's called, I call it flux exhaust and flux intake. So if you have flux exhaust, the field lines are leaving and going around and then entering the bottom. So that would be a north polarity pickup. So when you look at the tester, you have this tester, which is basically just a tube, and you have a neodymium magnet in there that will flip on its own to indicate which way, if we have a north polarity pickup or we have a south polarity pickup. So if the black dot on the neodymium magnet is pointing up, it's a north polarity pickup. And if the south or the yellow points up, it's a south polarity pickup. And that's because if you look at the let's look at the neodymium magnet. So when the black is facing up, you can see that on the right hand side of the diagram. The field lines match, right? So if the black is facing up, the field lines through the neodymium magnet on the inside of the neodymium magnet are going upward. So you can see that there. And so when you put that over the top of the north polarity pickup, those field lines are aligned, and the neodymium magnet will point up, the black will point up, and that shows you that we have a north polarity pickup, and the field lines are leaving the top of the screw of the slug, and the neodymium magnet is matching that. Now, on the left-hand side of the diagram, on the south polarity pickup, the neodymium magnet's on the left-hand side of the diagram. And you can see the field lines within inside the neodymium magnet are the same. They're still going from south to north. But now the north, because it's a south polarity pickup, just like the north pole of the Earth is a south polarity pickup. South polarity pole, I mean, not pickup. The Earth is a giant pickup, yeah. The field lines are going to point straight down, and that's going to expose the yellow. And that's an indication that we have a south polarity pickup because the field lines are an intake. So that's how we should really think about it. It's, yeah, opposites do attract. So the north part of the neodymium will attract to the south part of the slug, but it's really, that the field lines line up. Now, if I try to switch the neodymium magnet over and try to bring the south pole close to the south polarity pickup, there's going to be a repulsion, and that's because the field lines are in opposition. So now on the next slide, it's kind of interesting because this is kind of a visual representation of how a humbucker works, right? So on a humbucker, you have this magnet that is, a long magnet that sits under some screws and some slugs. So you have 6 screws, and they usually call that the north polarity, right? And then you have 6 slugs, which don't have the screw top, and they're usually the south. So you can see the field lines as they run through the magnet. They leave the edge of the magnet. So when you look how a humbucker is built, the screws are along one edge of the magnet. Usually they're touching the magnet, so this visual representation is a little bit off, but the screws are running along the edge of the bar magnet, and the slugs are on the other edge of the bar magnet. So what happens is the field lines leave the edge of the bar magnet. These screws are not magnetized. They're just, you know, unmagnetized conductive metal. That's all they are. So the field lines are being completely generated by the bar magnet in the humbucker. Now on some single coils, it's a the screws and the slugs are actually magnetized themselves. They're in Alnico 5s or Alnico 3s. So they're actually magnetized, or there could be a bar magnet on a single coil and it just sits underneath slugs that are unmagnetized, just conductive. So there's a couple ways to design that. But for most pickups, most humbuckers, this is what it looks like. So the field lines leave the north. They go up through the conductive screws, which have a screw top. They have the screw on the top. They travel up. So that's the north side. They go across the strings and then they come back down and are attracted to the south side. And now they go through the slugs. The field lines are in opposite. So they're entering the top of the slug and they're going back into the magnet, creating that flux loop. So what you can see is when you hold the device, that the neodymium magnet will flip to indicate the pickup polarity. So on over the screw terminal, the black will face up because the field lines that run through the neodymium magnet run from south to north. They leave the north part of the neodymium magnet and they run along, they match up with those field lines coming out of the screw. And then as you come over the pickup and you go to the other side, the neodymium magnet will flip and it'll show south because the field lines are opposite. You can see it right here. The field lines are going up on the screw side, which is the north, and down on the slug side, which is the south. So the magnet just switches, and the north is always going to face the flow of the field lines. So when it flips, the north will be down on the neodymium magnet, but it'll show the yellow up as a south. So that's a really good visualization of what's going on here, and it's really easy to I think if you keep flux lines in your mind instead of opposites attract and things like that, I think it's a lot easier to visualize what's going on. So usually the middle pickup on a regular Fender with 3 single coils will be the north. So you'll have 2 souths, a south on the bridge, a south on the neck, and then a north in the middle. And then the north will be reverse polarity, reverse wound to cancel hum. So that's in a nutshell. And at the end of the video here, there's an actual video of me demonstrating how the tool works. So hang on for that, and thanks for watching.
Okay, so here's the device. I want to see how easy this thing works. So in the diagram it showed when the black is up, that's north, and on the other side there's a yellow, and that's south. So black is up, so the field lines are moving this way, and then they're moving back that way. Up, down, up, down. Can you see that? We should get in there nice and tight on that. So that's the north coming out, the south going in. North coming out, south going in. North coming out, south coming in. So the field lines are up, coming out of that screw, going across the strings and down through that screw. Well, they're all screws, but that's really the slug side. Screw side, slug side. Now on single coils, that's the south, right? Because we got the yellow upward. That's the south. Field lines are coming out, and then field lines are going down. I'm sorry, on the south, up on the north. They're coming up on the north, and then down on the south. So south, north, south. So this one is reverse wound, reverse polarity. Simple as that, really simple tool. So if you want this tool, just let me know, and I'm gonna get the website up and going, and this tool will be available on the website. Very easy way to find out the polarity of pickups.